Today's story is about the Japanese serial killer Hiroshi Maeue. He suffered from a paraphilic psychosexual disorder and murdered 3 people in 2005. A 25-year-old woman living in Osaka Prefecture, Japan, had been suffering from depression and social anxiety since 1998, leading to repeated hospitalizations and discharges. She spent her days confined at home, only interacting with her computer in a dark room until she stumbled upon a website called the Suicide Website Murderer. She became interested in it and exchanged about 20 emails with a man she met on the website in December 2004. Eventually, they decided to commit suicide together using charcoal. On February 19, 2005, they met as planned, and the man rented a car. He arrived at the meeting point with tools like tape and extensions prepared. When the woman arrived, they headed to a secluded parking lot near a mountain, their agreed suicide location. To prepare for any potential consequences, they had deleted all traces of their communication and contacts. They both made final preparations for their deaths. When the woman attempted to start the suicide, the man suddenly changed. He forcefully subdued her, tied her hands and feet, and gagged her mouth with gauze soaked in gasoline, rendering her unable to resist. She struggled, but it was futile, and she eventually lost consciousness. He repeatedly made her faint by covering her mouth and nose with his hands while using the gauze. He did not kill her for 7 hours, repeatedly making her regain consciousness before finally killing her and disposing of her body by a riverbank. He had never intended to commit suicide from the beginning. His name was Hiroshi Maeue, and he lived in Osaka Prefecture, Japan. Maeue was born in 1968 in Osaka as the eldest son of a police officer. According to neighbors, he was gentle and unassuming, just an ordinary person. However, his father's strict upbringing caused him to become somewhat withdrawn and gradually deviant. As he grew up, he became obsessed with detective novels, particularly a scene where a woman's mouth was forcibly gagged. He found pleasure in imagining such situations. Before graduating from high school, he committed several crimes by secretly choking children in the neighborhood using a cloth soaked in chemicals over several years. After graduating from high school, he enrolled at the Kanazawa Institute of Technology. Even during his university years, he continued to choke fellow students. Strangely, he always got excited when he saw people wearing loose socks. Once, he attacked a male student wearing white socks, attempting to choke him, but fortunately, the student survived. However, after this incident became known, he had no choice but to drop out of college. After becoming an adult in 1995, Maeue got a job at the post office. Normally quiet and reserved, one day he suddenly changed. Seeing a male colleague wearing white loose socks at work, he couldn't contain his excitement and tried to attack and strangle the colleague. Fortunately, other co-workers intervened and he was arrested by the police. After his arrest, his father, wanting to protect his son, used almost all the money he had saved throughout his life to pay compensation to the victim. As a result, Maeue received a suspended sentence and was released. However, he lost his job. Living isolated at home like a recluse after losing his job, Maeue started a website in 2001 and began writing autobiographical novels. The content revolved around the protagonist strangling someone, which he serialized on his blog, calling himself the Choking King. His novels became a record of his crimes. From 2001 onwards, he actively searched for potential victims on the streets and started acting out his fantasies. He choked and attempted to murder 2 women passing by and was caught fleeing the scene. However, he received only a 1-year prison sentence and 3 years of probation. Without remorse for his crimes, he continued with similar acts. In 2002, he was arrested again for attempting to strangle a junior high school boy and was sentenced to 22 months in prison. After his release in 2003, he began planning his crimes more meticulously. Rather than kidnapping people on the streets, he looked for ways to satisfy his fantasies in a more discreet manner. That's when he discovered suicide websites. In 2004, he lured his first victim and started his crimes in 2005. He prepared drugs and tools in advance and, without raising suspicion, took the woman to a secluded location. To ensure no traces were left behind, he deleted all messages and call records beforehand. He then changed suddenly, subdued the woman, tied her hands and feet, and gagged her mouth with gauze soaked in gasoline. She eventually lost consciousness. He repeatedly made her faint whenever she woke up. After 7 hours of torment, she died. After she died, Maeue filmed her body with a camera and abandoned it. 3 months later, he found another victim. This second victim was a 14-year-old middle school boy at the time. The boy left a message to his friends saying he was going to meet a man he met on a suicide website in May 2005 and then disappeared. The man he met was Maeue. Maeue killed the boy using the same method as with the woman. He recorded the boy's voice before he died and called his father, claiming to have kidnapped his son and demanding ransom. When the boy's father refused to pay easily, Maeue became angry and confessed to killing his son over the phone before hanging up. Maeue's horrific crimes didn't end here. A month later, in June 2005, he met a 21-year-old man on a website and killed him in the same manner. The man's family reported him missing after he didn't contact them for over 10 days after leaving home. His body was found in the woods 2 months later in August 2005, after the incidents came to light. The investigation began a few days after the death of the first woman. Even after the discovery of the two bodies, the police couldn't find any suspects. However, they eventually discovered that all three had contacted the same man on a suicide website, who turned out to be Maeue. On August 5, 2005, Maeue was arrested on charges of murder and disposing of bodies. He denied the crimes, so the police restored the novels he had written and deleted from his website. These novels contained records of his crimes. When confronted by the police, he admitted to the charges. His statements during the police investigation were truly horrifying. He expressed no intention to commit suicide and mentioned feeling excited when he saw people suffering as he gagged them, regardless of their gender. He said he wanted to see their agonized faces. The police searched his house, where they found videos and audio recordings depicting the victims suffering on his computer. In his trial, prosecutors called Maeue a lust murderer. On March 28, 2007, the Osaka District Court sentenced him to death. Although his defense team launched an appeal, he accepted the judgment of the court and expressed a willingness to pay for his crimes with his life, retracting his appeal on July 5, 2007. On July 28, 2009, Maeue was executed. At the time, this case shocked many Japanese people, and there was much discussion about what thoughts led him to commit such crimes. A professor who assessed him mentally stated that he suffered from a paraphilic psychosexual disorder, which is the inability to achieve sexual release without performing an act of strangulation. Maeue asked the professor to analyze him and use that information to benefit society.